Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to talk about how you can unlock career opportunities in artificial intelligence and machine learning. I'm especially going to be concentrating on the new certifications from AWS, the AI Practitioner and the Machine Learning Associate certifications. So in this video, I'm going to cover the AWS certification landscape. I'm going to show you the various different certifications AWS have and who they are targeted towards. I'm also going to cover in much more detail the AI and ML career pathways. So I'm going to talk about those two new certifications and also tell you what pathway you should take through AWS certifications and some of the other services and technologies you might need to learn if you want to take a career path into AI and ML, which has tons and tons of opportunity today. I'm also going to talk about how much you can earn. Significant pay in this industry. It's very high salaries, especially now because there's such high demand. And I'm going to tell you how you can get started, what steps you need to take, and stay till the end because I'm going to talk about our training and what we are designing for you to train you to go into these career pathways with lots and lots of success. So let's get on with it. So let's go into the certification landscape first. Now, I'm going to rewind a little bit because there's been a huge amount of change from the end of 2023 through to the middle of 2024. We've seen quite a few changes. So I'm going to set the landscape. Now, start off, we have the Cloud Practitioner. This is the foundational level certification. This one has existed for several years now. Now, the Cloud Practitioner at the foundational level is designed both for a technical audience and a non-technical audience. So if you're new to cloud or new to technology in general, and you're going towards a technical role, this is like a good starting point. It's a stepping stone, but it doesn't cover a lot of depth in terms of practical knowledge. So it doesn't really teach you practical deployment, for example. However, if you're moving on to some of the higher certifications, the associate, the professional, or the specialty levels, then definitely a very good starting place if you're new to cloud. It's also good for people who are non-technical. Maybe you are an IT manager, you're not hands-on, but you need to understand the technology. Maybe you're working in sales for a company that's designing or utilizing cloud services, and that's part of your portfolio. You need to understand how it works. You might be a project manager. A variety of different roles. Marketing as well would be another good one, where you're not technical, but you need to understand the benefits and the features of the cloud. So above that, we have the associate. Now, for several years now, we've had these three. Okay, there's more coming along now. I'll talk about those in a moment. But these are aligned for different job roles. So we've got solutions architect, developer associate, and SysOps administrator, all associate level. So obviously, if you're going towards a solutions architect role, the solutions architect one is designed more for you. If you're going to develop on AWS, the developer, and so on. However, don't think that these are only for people going into those roles. So even if you're going to be a developer, you'll want to do the solutions architect because it'll give you a broad understanding of services on AWS. Likewise, if you want to become a solutions architect, very good to do the developer associate because you'll learn about some of the CI/CD tools, the code pipeline tools, as well as then doing a SysOps administrator, which will help you understand how operations are performed and a bit more of a deep dive into how to deploy on AWS. Now, that's really good if you're a solutions architect. I've always found the best architects are those who really understand how things are deployed. They can design better by understanding how things work under the hood a little bit more deeply. Above that, we have the professional level. Now, these get a lot harder. So we've got a big jump from the Cloud Practitioner level, that foundational level, through to the associate level, meaning that the exam questions are going to be much more scenario-based, job-specific, and deep in terms of the technical content and the cognitive level that is required to pass those exams. When we get up to professional, it's another big jump. Okay, so they're quite a bit harder, especially this one, the Solutions Architect Pro, which I certainly think, and I know that a lot of people share the same opinion, that this is the hardest of the certifications. And I myself am a solutions architect, many years, over 20 years in the industry. And I still found the DevOps engineer, even though that's not really my core skill set, much easier than the SA Pro. So it gives you an idea that it's pretty hard. We then have specialties. Now, specialties are much more aligned to very specific technology verticals. So if you're a subject matter expert in networking or security or machine learning here. Now, we did have these additional three as well, database, data analytics, and SAP on AWS. Now, the specialties are much less popular, and I think this has been a problem for AWS. So maybe the advanced networking and the security are probably the two most popular. These three here weren't very popular, so they've gone. So they were retired early first quarter, second quarter of 2024. SAP didn't surprise me because not a lot of people, it's a very narrow skill set. I mean, there's not a huge number of people who actually specialize in that area, very specialist. So didn't have a big enough audience to be popular. Database and data analytics, however, these are both very popular technologies on AWS. A lot of people are using databases, of course, and a lot of people need to understand data analytics, even if it's not your core job role. But what AWS seemed to have done is then move to an associate level, which kind of combines some of the knowledge that you might need in these two, but brings it to a broader audience, and also being a very good foundation for machine learning. So data engineering is one of the core topics you need to understand if you're going to become an ML engineer. So this new certification is probably going to be very popular. We'll see how it plays out. Now we have the AI practitioner as well. So there's a new foundational level certification, very exciting. This one was not a big surprise to me. I wasn't sure how it was going to be implemented by AWS, but I knew that something for AI was coming, of course, because there's such great demand. And we now have a machine learning associate. Now, as far as I know at this point in time, the machine learning specialty still remains. So now there's a pathway. So if you're becoming a AI ML specialist, you've got the practitioner level, you've got data engineer, you've got machine learning associate, and then a specialty as well. So a good pathway. And I'm going to go into the pathways in more detail towards the end of the video. So that is the landscape as it sits today. And it seems to be evolving quite fast, but hopefully things will slow down a bit now because we've got some great certifications here. So I'm not sure if we're going to see any other retirements or additions. Now, why might you want to learn AI and ML on AWS? So demand for these skill sets is expected to grow by 40%. That's from the World Economic Forum report in 2023. Also, 70% of North American IT leaders say they have the greatest difficulty filling AI ML specialist roles. Now, a great site, and I'm going to show you where I found this information. If you go to Coming Soon to AWS Certification, I'll just put that into a browser, it's going to take you to this page. This is where AWS announced new certifications. You can see here, let me zoom in a bit for you. We've got the AI practitioner and we've got the machine learning associate. And these are beta exams which are coming August 13th, 2024. So let's just open these two pages. So firstly, the practitioner here. If I scroll down a little bit, it says here, how will the AWS certified AI practitioner help my career? And we've got a very interesting study here from AWS from last year. Employers are willing to pay 43% more to hire AI skilled workers in sales, marketing, and so on. And at the bottom here, we've got 47% more for IT professionals. Okay, so if you have this skill set, not only are we in a high paid industry anyway, you're going to get a lot more money because these skills are in such high demand at the moment. And if we go to the machine learning page, again, how will machine learning help my career? Here's that information I just shared with you. So I just wanted to show you where this information comes from. AWS have introduced these new certifications because there's such great demand. So many companies need these skills because they need to start building out and using these services so they can innovate faster and bring new technologies and services to the market. Now, organizations are using the cloud to launch a new wave of disruption driven by AI. This is from Gartner. So what they're saying is that we're seeing a massive growth in cloud computing in general because of this take-up of AI. And what that means for you is that all cloud job roles will benefit. So you don't have to become an AI ML specialist, but I think it's a good skill set for most people who are working in technology to have to some degree. We'll talk more about that later on. But solutions architect job roles, DevOps engineers, SysOps engineers, all of these are going to grow because the cloud is growing. Usage of the cloud is growing. So we need architects, we need DevOps engineers, and we need SysOps engineers, and many other roles as well. So let's look at the individual certifications in a bit more detail, starting with the Certified AI Practitioner. I'm just going to cover the two new certifications, the AI Practitioner and the Machine Learning Associate. So for the AI practitioner, this is going to validate essential knowledge of AI and machine learning and generative AI concepts and applications. Now, it's going to be more focused on Gen AI compared to the ML associate, which I think will be less so. It's more about machine learning. It's ideal for those who are familiar with but not necessarily developing solutions on AWS using AI and ML services. So more conceptual than practical. It's not about implementing, it's about understanding the technology. So for a variety of different roles, as you can see here, sales professionals, marketing professionals, and so on, as well as those people who are using it as a stepping stone into more technical concepts as well. So what topics are included now? Just bear in mind that at the point in time that I'm creating this video, it's before the start date of the beta exam, and that means it's before the release date of the exam guide. So we have limited information. But this is what we know straight from AWS. So interesting here, we're seeing things like responsible AI and security at the bottom there. So things like AI ethics, best practices for AI, security around AI. We've got prompt engineering in there, of course, really important skill set, use cases for AI and ML. So it's going to cover a very broad set of technologies and services on AWS, but not necessarily to a great depth. Now, this exam is foundational. The beta exam will be 120 minutes, 85 questions, and $75, starting on August 13th. Now, if you're watching this video after that time, and after the release of the final exam, most of this is not going to change in terms of the topics, but the actual exam questions most likely will. Beta exam questions usually include some harder questions and easier questions than you'll find in the final exam. It's because AWS are using it to try and work out which questions are too difficult, which are too easy, and they're trying to get the exam to the right level of difficulty. So if you do the beta, you get a small discount from $100 to $75, but you have to answer more questions, and some of them might be harder than you expect them to be, or than they will be in the final exam. So expect broad but not deep coverage of AI and ML concepts and services, some business-related concepts like ethical use of AI and AI safety, technical concepts, so some reasonably complex stuff here, foundation models, ML operations, model deployment, and so on. So even though you won't need to know how to deploy these technologies, you will need to understand how they are used and understand some of the sort of core concepts around them, which may go fairly technical as well. There will be a lot of overlap with the ML associate, and the ML associate will most likely have a lot of overlap with the ML specialty as well. You'll need a solid understanding of AWS Cloud and core services, so we'll look at the career pathways shortly, but I don't think you're going to go straight into this as your first AWS certification unless you already understand AWS and the AWS Cloud. Services which will be very popular on this exam or very well featured on this exam would be Amazon Q, Bedrock, and SageMaker, but there'll be lots and lots more services than that. So moving on to the Machine Learning Associate Certification. This is going to validate the technical ability to implement and operationalize machine learning workloads. So you see, now that we get to the associate level, we're moving away from the conceptual to the practical, actual implementation and operations. So suitable for ML engineers and ML ops engineers. No longer is this certification targeted towards the business people, the marketing people, the sales people. This is purely for those doing technical roles. So things, job roles like software developer, DevOps engineer, data engineer, and so on. So what are you going to expect to see? Data preparation for ML models will be one topic, feature engineering, model training, performance and metrics for models, integration and deployment for models, performance and cost optimization and security. This is going to go a lot deeper. Now, I would say that there'll be a lot of overlap with the specialty. It will probably be a subset of the concepts that you need to understand, certainly an easier level in terms of the questions that you're going to be asked in the exam. And there might be some new services that you see in here that aren't currently in the ML specialty as well. So for this associate level certification, the beta exam will be 170 minutes, 85 questions, $75. Now for a beta exam, this is half the cost of the final exam. Usually they're $150, but they're also usually 65 questions, just like the foundational level. So it is a longer exam. There will be some hard questions in there. Again, if you do the beta, it's probably going to be a fairly difficult exam compared to the final version of the exam. So just bear that in mind. So what to expect: broad and deep coverage of AI and ML concepts and services. Questions much harder than the AIF exam, but not as hard as the machine learning specialty. A lot of overlap with the machine learning specialty. I think the core of this exam is going to be very similar. Deep coverage of services like SageMaker and Bedrock. And of course, the range of ML services on AWS, and there's lots of those. So let's move on to certification pathways. So if you want to develop some skills in these areas, let's have a look at what you might want to do. So if you're in a non-technical role, for those sales and marketing people, you might want to do the Cloud Practitioner and then the AI Practitioner. This is going to build a good skill set, a good understanding of AWS. So if you're working with this technology at some level, it's in your business. You need to speak to customers about it. If you're a salesperson, you need to write marketing documentation that talks about how you're using the cloud or what services you offer to other customers. So if you're one of those people, then start with the Cloud Practitioner. That will give you a general understanding of AWS. It'll help you to understand the use cases, the business use cases for why we want to use the cloud. Then you can look at the AI Practitioner, which will talk about why you want to leverage AI technology. Let's now have a look at an associate or intermediate level pathway for those who are working in a technical role in the cloud. You could start with the AI Practitioner Foundational. Now, this does assume you have a working understanding of AWS. If not, then start with the Cloud Practitioner. Then we go on to the Solutions Architect Associate, because this is going to provide a broad understanding of lots of different services to a relatively deep level as well. After that, the Developer Associate. The SA Associate does not cover the CI/CD pipeline tools, the developer tools, which the Developer Associate does. Lots of overlap between these two certifications. So once you've done the SA Associate, the Developer Associate is not a big gap. So it's worth doing, and then you'll understand some of those tools which are going to be used in AI ML scenarios. Then you can move on to the Machine Learning Associate and build another level of depth for your machine learning and AI capability. Now, lastly, I'll show a more specialist pathway. So this includes quite a few certifications. We've got the AI Practitioner Foundational, the Solutions Architect Associate, the Developer Associate, then the Data Engineer Associate, and then on top of that, the Machine Learning Engineer Associate and the Machine Learning Specialty. So you can see here, I've also added in the Data Engineer Associate, because this is going to provide someone who really is going to a deep level with working with ML services. It's going to give you a good understanding about how these models are deployed and trained at a database level and a database optimization level. So a very useful certification. In fact, AWS, if we have a look at this document here, this is the Training and Certification Pathways document from AWS. And if we scroll down, you can see lots of different job roles. And AWS help you to understand which set of certifications you should go for in what order. Now, this has not been updated yet to include the Machine Learning Associate or the AI Foundational certification either. So for the current document, Machine Learning Engineer shows this pathway. And you can see you've got the Data Engineer Associate, then the Machine Learning Specialty. Now, what salaries can you expect in this industry? It's a very highly paid industry, of course, in cloud computing in general, whether you're a solutions architect, DevOps engineer, cloud engineer, very good wages. And as I showed you at the beginning of this video, because of the such high demand for the AI ML skill sets, they can command an even higher wage at the moment. So according to Indeed.com, the machine learning engineer salary in the US has an average of $160,000 a year. High is really big, $250,000 here. And the low is over $100,000. So even a six-figure salary for those on the lower end of the pay scale for this particular job role. Now, of course, to be completely transparent, this does not mean you can go from zero, learn AWS, build up a set of certifications, and then go and get a job at these wages. You do need some additional skills and experience as well, and that's really important. I'll talk a bit more soon about how you can gain those skills and that experience even if you're not working in the industry. DevOps engineers, to give you a bit of comparison here, earn on average $126,000, and solutions architects or software architects about $140,000 on average here. So definitely machine learning does command a higher wage at the moment. So what do you need to be able to get a job in this industry? Okay, certifications alone are not enough. They are really a prerequisite these days. They are not a differentiator. So you do need to earn certifications. You do need to learn the right skills and be able to demonstrate to employers that you've been through this training and that you have this level of capability. But you also need broad skills across multiple technologies and platforms. And that's going to depend, which skills you need is going to depend on what job role you're going into. And you need to build a portfolio of experience you can demonstrate to employers. If you're working in the industry, that is on-the-job experience that you can demonstrate. So you just have to document it and showcase it online in your resume and through other means to make sure that employers or potential employers can see that and understand your capabilities, what you've actually done. If you're not working in the industry, then that becomes something where you can build through projects and capstones some experience and then find a way to demonstrate that through articles, through online applications that you've built, and so on and so forth. You've also got to bypass the standard job application process to be successful today. Unfortunately, the old model of just spraying your CV, your resume out to lots of different employers is just not going to cut it. There's a lot of people looking for work. You're going to be one resume in a pile of resumes, just does not work. You have to find a way to get in front of the employers. That's something that we teach our students in our bootcamp program, how they can make sure that they get noticed and skip the queue, so to say. So what can you do to build a in-demand skill set that's going to get you into a job? Now, I'm going to talk now about the framework that we use in our bootcamp program, in which we help students to build up the skills, experience, and then showcase that experience so they can actually get into jobs faster and at higher salaries. We call this competency building framework. Now, this is a unique methodology that we have defined over many years of working with students and building out this program. What we do is we incorporate scenario-based learning, challenge-based learning, and project-based learning. And on top of that, we have our Tech Career Accelerator program. So what are all these? So we've got the scenario-based learning. That's essentially where you are learning through real-world scenarios. You are building applications. Now, you can do some of this on your own through the training courses that we have published online instead of our boot camps. The problem is it's more limited, and it's the same for most training courses out there. You'll learn how to do some relatively minor hands-on activities, but the more real-world projects, which are a bit more complex, are something that you're unlikely to be able to do on your own in watching a video-based training course. So we do scenario-based learning. Then we have challenge-based learning. This is a really important step because this is where, once you've built up that skill set through the scenario-based learning, we're going to start introducing challenges for you, problems that you have to solve, environments that are broken and you have to fix them. We're going to give you solutions that you have to build, which means you have to come up with some way, some method of actually completing the exercise. This is where it's much more aligned with what you're doing in the real world, where you're actually having to solve problems on a daily basis. If you go for a job interview, it's almost guaranteed for a tech job role that you are going to be challenged in this way. They might put you in front of the AWS console and give you a problem that you've got to solve. Or they might give you more of a thought experiment where they give you a scenario and ask, how would you go about solving this problem or achieving this outcome? Now, if you've done this in the real world, that's great. If you've done it in a bootcamp program like ours, that's also a great way to then build up that knowledge and the methodologies and the processes so that you can actually stand your ground in an interview and respond. And then thirdly, here we have the project-based learning, which is where we integrate everything we've learned into capstone projects and build something really more complex where there's lots of problem solving and we've got something to showcase at the end. We can then take that, and with our Tech Career Accelerator program, we can showcase that to employers. This is where you're going to get lots of coaching from career coaches who are experts in the field, help you to build out that portfolio, make sure your online brand looks good, teach you how to get in front of employers, and make sure that you're noticed. So to sum this all up, if you want to be successful in this industry, whether you're going to become a solutions architect, a DevOps engineer, a cloud engineer, or whether you're going into this new world of AI and ML that's exploding in popularity, you need to have the right skills. So you'll need some AWS certifications if you're working on AWS, and then you'll need the additional skills, which of course are dependent on the particular job role. So for example, Linux and Python and Terraform and Kubernetes, maybe some Git and Jenkins and Ansible, again, depending on the role that you're going for. Then on top of that, you need to make sure you've got the practical skill set. You need to be able to discuss your practical skill set, talk about how you're able to solve problems, showcase some of your projects and your capstones, as well as be able to solve live challenges that they might set you in an interview scenario. And then lastly, of course, and not least, very, very important at the top here, make sure that you've got a good online personal brand. Make sure that you are putting your best foot forward online, that you have a project portfolio and a resume that really sort of talks to your experience, even if that experience comes from running through some training like a bootcamp program. If you can put all this together, skip the queue and get in front of employers, then you have a great chance of getting into this industry at very good wages. And even if you're starting on the lower end of the pay scale, keep learning, keep building those skills, and you can move your way up over the time and over years. So if you want more experience about how we can help you do that faster through our Cloud Mastery Bootcamp program, check the description of this video and you'll find some information there.